Imagine knowing exactly what your students are learning and exactly which steps you need to take next.
Join us in Down with the Reading Quiz to craft meaningful and productive formative assessments that move away from gotcha moments of basic recall and toward assessing what your students actually can do.
In this 30-minute free masterclass, we'll share 3 powerful assessment keys that work for any novel at any time of the year.
Head to shop.bravenewteaching.com/masterclass to sign up, and we'll also send you a free workbook to keep track of all your notes.
Once again, that's shop.bravenewteaching.com/masterclass to nail formative assessments forever.
Hey, Amanda.
Hey, Marie.
What are you up to later? Want to join me for happy hour?
I'm all in.
And guess what's amazing? Our listeners and friends of the podcast can also join us because Brave New Teaching Happy Hour has officially launched. Cheers!
Cheers, everyone. We are officially hanging out a little bit longer after school with an extended, extra private podcast feed just for you.
Yes. Members of Happy Hour get extra 15 minutes of the podcast, give or take, because you know us, we run a little bit long. It's just kind of how we are. But if you would like to get in on this Happy Hour action, please join us. It is only $5 a month. Head to curriculumrehab.com/happy hour and get yourself signed up, because when you're there, Amanda, tell our friends what we do every month for our Happy Hour members.
I think my favorite part is coming up with a new free resource for our listeners every month. And then we pretty much break down that resource and how to use it. We also like to have guests on to do extended episodes and even Q&A that's just for you about that resource. It's really exclusive and super private just for you.
So if you are like us and you like hanging out, you like chit-chatting about all things that are teaching, teacher life, and everything under that umbrella, join us for happy hour and we will see you there. Bye.
Bye. You're listening to Brave New Teaching, a podcast for educators challenging the status quo. I'm Amanda, and I'm a high school English teacher in Illinois.
And I'm Marie, and I'm also a high school English teacher in Southern California. We're so glad you're here. Enjoy the show. Well, hello, and welcome back to a little mini-sode of Brave New Teaching. We just wanted to pop on because there's some things we've been talking about, specifically when it comes to online teaching, virtual learning, the world that we are finding ourselves in, at least many of us. And Amanda and I have been having this conversation about, hey, I'm sick of the screen. Do you think our students are sick of the screen? So we thought we would bring you guys some ideas and just kind of say, like, here's some things we're doing to get kids off the screen. And yeah, I know Amanda has a bunch of ideas. So let's say hi, Amanda.
Hey, everybody. This is what happens is Marie and I, we talk on Voxer all the time, and we have these like little mini conversations that we're like, we should put those on the podcast so people can hear them. And this was one of them. So let's just start by saying, hey, remember, it's okay to do activities by hand still and to do things that encourage kids to get off of their technology.
Absolutely.
I was forgetting that for a while.
It's so easy to do, though, because you get into a rhythm, right? You get into a rhythm and you take the graphic organizers and the other things that are supporting student learning that you would do by hand in the classroom, or big posters you would be making on the wall by hand in person. And you try to translate that in a way that still does all the scaffolding and all the different things that we want it to do, like instructionally speaking. But it all becomes a whole bunch of Google Slides. And I am so guilty of that. Like, my students are like, oh my God, it's another Google slide. And I'm like, I know, but it's a different one. This one's circles instead of lines. Like, it's just, and you got to spice it up, you know, just like if you do the same sort of activities every single day in your classroom, you got to spice it up sometimes. And so, for instance, one of the really simple ways that I have been taking that whole, like, it's another Google slide issue, I just say, okay, you can work on the Google slide or you can print it. If you don't have a printer, you can just recreate it by hand. make it work for you, recreate it by hand, or make something that is the same content that I'm asking you to do on this screen on a piece of paper, take a clear picture of it and attach that as your work. Like, and it's students go, oh, that's so much easier, right? I know you've been doing similar things like that.
I think that's the hack. The hack is giving kids the choice to just take a picture of whatever they're doing by hand to turn in. I mean, that's really it. So that opens up the door to all kinds of things. I mean, we've done one pagers where the kids are doing some kind of sketch noting or a true one pager or a storyboard. It's really fun to do that the first couple of times online.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, for sure. But if you're looking for a way to help them step back, have them do it by hand and ask them to take a picture and attach. I know on Google Classroom, that's super easy. I don't know about Canvas because you're using it.
It's pretty easy on Canvas. Yeah, it's pretty easy on Canvas. It's the same sort of a thing. If you just, make it an option to upload a file and that file can be a JPEG, then there you go. The other thing that I'm realizing this really does for our students is I'm right now on like a huge extended screen with my laptop. I also have my personal laptop and then a work laptop. And I have so many stinking screens around me. So it's easy for me to pull windows to the side and be able to see multiple things at once. Our kids are working on teeny tiny little baby Chromebooks given to them by the district, So being able to see what they're needing to do in one place and then handwrite in another place. I know this was a way to get them off of screens, but it's just a way that their little brains don't have to split between things all the time. They can just have something in it's the equivalent of looking at the board, at the directions written on the board or being shown on the board and being able to do your work by hand, right? It's kind of like bringing that duality of being able to see two things at once, because it's really hard to click back and forth between tabs. It's hard.
Yes. And P.S., this is not make more work for you. We're not coming here with another thing to put on your to-do list. All this is another option to add to your directions. And the students then are the ones uploading the photo or turning in the Google slide, whatever that might be. So pick and choose. Another thing that I've been doing, which deserves another episode for another time and maybe even a blog post, I've had my kids doing some podcasting. And so it's they are off the screen. They're using a little bit of tech. One student has their phone open and is recording, and the other kids are on their phones or on their computers just to have the microphones available. But it really is a chance for them just to talk, and they're not really going off of what's happening on screen, and they're discussing their books, discussing our essential questions. And we've been using the app Anchor, which I wish we would have found before we started doing this, because we would even make this podcasting even easier.
I know, right?
But Anchor's been really nice for the kids, and it's super easy to use, implement, low tech, and it really gets the kids to start having these things called conversations again.
I know, that's insane. Well, and as you're saying that, I'm realizing something else. So early on at the very beginning of this school year, I don't remember if I talked about it on the podcast or not, but I talked about it on my own, in my own content for the Caffeinated Classroom. I was talking about how I was making a workbook for my students and basically taking everything I would have run off as copies and getting it. We have a publications department in our district, which is awesome. And I'd never really used them for this kind of a service. But having all of that put into a spiral bound little workbook that my students then came to school when they had to get their textbooks, and they picked up the workbook as well if they were in Mrs. Morris's class. And it has been awesome for the first quarter. Well, now we're in second quarter, and I sincerely have not had the time, energy, or mental bandwidth to make another workbook for them. So another way though to get them off of screens almost completely when you say podcasts is to have them listen to podcasts, right? So like I said, my students came to school to pick up textbooks, and I've heard from a lot of teachers that so do your students have actual books in their hands? Are they reading things on a Kindle or an e-reader? How are they doing this? And I said, well, it's a little bit of both, but for the most part, I want them to have a physical book in their hands so that it is time away from a screen. I'm at the point now where I don't get to say that anymore because I'm so in the weeds when it comes to teaching and all the other parts of life that I'm pushing out a lot of digital content to my students. Articles, short stories, poems, everything like that is on a screen. However, when I give them like a weekly podcast episode or podcast excerpt, they just pop in their headphones and they're writing physical notes as they go. So there's like no screen involved to it. And every single time we do this, my juniors are the ones who have done it, say, oh, it was so nice to be able to do my homework and not be looking at a screen and not have to look back to find out what the instructions were. I literally just had a sheet of paper and I had to listen and take notes on what I heard. They just are so refreshed. So these are just, like we said, like Amanda said, not making more work for you all out there because nobody has the time, but just some ways to kind of like take the pressure off of you and make you kind of go, oh, okay, I can provide a little bit of a screen break for my students and for myself, in certain ways. So.
Well, and we know all of the science that backs up handwriting and memory and note taking and things like that. I encourage my kids when we rarely do a note taking type of lecture or lesson, but when we do, I ask the kids to handwrite their notes and take a picture and upload them. Again. So we just hope that helps refresh you guys in the middle of the week or the start of the week, whenever you're listening. And if you have any other ideas yourself, please reach out, and we'd love to share that with the rest of the world. Let us know what you're doing. Come reach out to us at Brave New Teaching on Instagram and let us know what you're doing in your classrooms.
Absolutely. And one quick little thing before we sign off with you guys, we are reopening our free masterclass for teachers very, very soon. In fact, depending on when you're listening to this, it might be happening right now. So head to the show notes so that you can sign up. It is our masterclass Down with the Reading Quiz. It is all about designing and using formative assessments in your classroom in a way that is productive and actually gets you forward to your objective of student learning and all of that good stuff. There's a lot of really good stuff in here. So make sure you check the show notes for the different things we talked about today and to register for our free masterclass. And with that, we will see you guys next time. Thank you so much. Bye.